I never planned on dressing up as Santa that Christmas. It wasn't tradition. It wasn't even my idea. It was something I agreed to because my daughter asked, with that quiet hope in her voice, the kind that makes you say yes before thinking it through. "Just once," she said, "so it feels real." Emily was 7, old enough to ask questions, too young to stop believing. Her mother had passed away 2 years earlier, and Christmas had been thinner since then. Less laughter, less magic. I wanted to give her something familiar, something safe. So I bought the suit. Cheap red fabric, fake beard, plastic boots that smelled like rubber. I hid it in the garage, waited until Christmas Eve, and told Emily I needed to run an errand after she went to bed. She hugged me before turning in, tight, longer than usual. "Don't forget," she whispered, "Santa comes early this year." I smiled. He always does. She fell asleep fast, or at least I thought she did. At 11:47 p.m., I changed into the costume, checked myself in the mirror. I looked ridiculous. The beard itched, the hat sat crooked. Still, I imagined her face lighting up. That was enough. I crept through the living room, careful not to make noise. The tree glowed softly, ornaments reflecting red and gold across the walls. Snow pressed against the windows in thick, quiet drifts. I was halfway to the stairs when I heard her voice. "Daddy?" I froze. "Yeah, Em?" I called softly. She leaned over the banister, hair messy, eyes wide but not sleepy. "Santa already came." I laughed too quickly. "Nice try." She shook her head, slowly, seriously. "No, he was here. He talked to me." The room felt colder. I stepped closer to the stairs. "What do you mean?" "He came into my room," she said. "He said I'd been very good this year." My smile tightened. That was probably a dream. She frowned. "No, dreams don't leave things." She pointed toward the tree. There were presents beneath it. Not the ones I wrapped, not the ones I recognized. They were wrapped in brown paper, tied with thin red string. No tags. My stomach dropped. "I didn't open them," she added quickly. "He said not to. He said you wouldn't like what's inside." I swallowed. "Did he look like Santa?" Emily hesitated. "Not like yours." I didn't respond. I couldn't. I walked to the front door. The snow outside was untouched, except for a single trail of footprints leading from the street straight to our house. They were massive, too large, too deep, and they didn't come back. I locked the door, checked the windows, every latch secure. "Go back to bed," I said, trying to sound calm. "I'll take care of this." She nodded, but as she turned, she asked one last thing. "Daddy, why did Santa know Mommy's name?" I didn't answer. I waited until her bedroom door closed, then knelt by the presents. My hands trembled as I touched the paper. Cold. Not room temperature cold, outside cold. I untied the string on the smallest one. Inside was a snow globe. Our old house, the one Emily was born in, the one her mother died in. When I shook it, the snow didn't fall. It rose. A sound came from upstairs. Slow footsteps. I stood up too fast, my Santa suit suddenly suffocating. I grabbed the fireplace poker and moved toward the stairs. Each step creaked under weight that wasn't mine. "Emily?" I called. No answer. The footsteps stopped outside her door. Then came a voice. Low, warm, familiar in the worst way. "She's been very patient." I climbed the stairs, heart hammering so loud I was sure it would wake the neighbors. The door was open. The room was dark except for the glow of the nightlight, and someone was sitting at the edge of Emily's bed. Not Santa. Not fully. The suit was right, but older, dirt-stained. The red dulled to brown. The beard hung too long, too thin, revealing a mouth that smiled without warmth. Its eyes reflected the nightlight like an animal's. Emily sat frozen beneath her blanket, eyes locked on me. "Daddy," she whispered, "he said you were pretending." The thing turned its head. "Ah," it said, "the father." I raised the poker. "Get away from her." It chuckled, a sound like snow sliding off a roof. "You invited me," it said. "You put on the clothes. You told her I was real. I'm Santa, not you." The thing stood. It was taller than me. "Every year," it said softly, "someone pretends, and every year someone believes. You gave her hope. I gave her truth." I don't remember remembering the rest clearly. I remember screaming. I remember grabbing Emily and running. I remember the sound behind us. Not footsteps, but laughter. When I woke up, it was morning. Emily was asleep beside me on the living room floor, wrapped in a blanket. The tree was gone. So were the presents. The house was normal, quiet, empty. Police found no signs of forced entry, no footprints, no evidence. They said it was stress, grief, a shared dream. Emily doesn't talk about it anymore. But every Christmas Eve, she locks her door. And every year, just before midnight, she whispers the same thing to me through the wall. "Daddy, Santa still comes early." And somewhere in the house, something answers. The Christmas card arrived on December 12th. No return address, no stamp I recognized. Just my name written in careful, slanted handwriting across the front. At first, I thought it was a mistake, or a neighbor's prank. But when I opened it, my hands went cold. "Merry Christmas. Hope the snow hasn't been too heavy this year." That was it. No signature, no explanation. I stared at the message for a long time, a strange sense of familiarity settling in my chest, like walking into a room you know you've been in before but can't remember when. It wasn't the first time I'd received a card like this. I get one every year, always in mid-December, always the same handwriting, always the same message, and always from the same place. The house on Briarwood Lane. The house that burned down 23 years ago. I grew up 3 streets away. Everyone did. The fire was local legend. Christmas night, flames visible from miles, sirens screaming through falling snow. A family had lived there. Mother, father, a little boy. None of them made it out. The house was never rebuilt, just a blackened foundation behind a chain-link fence. Eventually, people stopped talking about it, except for the cards. The first one arrived when I was 17. I'd assumed it was a cruel joke back then, something tasteless, something easy to ignore. But year after year, the card kept coming. Never threatening, never strange, just patient. I moved away, changed apartments, changed my last name after marriage. The cards still found me. This year's card was different. The handwriting was shakier, pressed deeper into the paper. And when I opened it, there was an extra line. "Thank you for keeping your promise. I won't forget what you did." My breath caught. I read it again and again. I didn't know what promise it meant. I didn't know what I had done. But some buried part of me did. That night, I dreamed of fire, not the heat, just the sound, the crackle, the way wood collapses inward when it's finally too weak to stand. I woke up with the smell of smoke in my nose. The next morning, I drove to Briarwood Lane. I hadn't been there since I was a kid. The lot was exactly the same, snow-covered, empty, the fence rusted but intact, except for one thing, a mailbox.
new, red, standing at the curb like it had always belonged there. I got out of the car. My heart beat harder with each step. Inside the mailbox was another card, unsealed. You came back. I was hoping you would. My hands shook as I turned around. The house wasn't there, but I could see it. Not with my eyes, with memory. The windows glowing orange, the front door half open, smoke pouring out into the night. And me, standing across the street, watching. I was 12 when it happened. I remembered it suddenly, violently, like a wound reopening. I was walking home from a friend's house when I saw the fire start, small at first, just a glow through the curtains. I ran closer. I heard shouting inside, a child crying. I could have screamed. I could have knocked. I could have run for help, but I didn't. I froze, and then I ran. The next day, everyone said there was nothing anyone could have done, that it was too fast, too late. I believed them. I needed to. The card in my hand trembled. You said you'd tell someone. You said you wouldn't forget us. I was a kid. I was scared, I whispered. The wind shifted. The snow began to fall harder. Another card lay at my feet. I hadn't seen it drop. We waited every Christmas. The air grew thick, heavy, warm. I smelled smoke again. I backed away, heart pounding, until my heel caught on the curb and I fell. When I looked up, the house was there, whole, lights glowing in every window. A family stood inside, silhouettes pressed against the glass. And the boy, he raised his hand. I screamed. The world snapped back. The lot was empty, silent, cold. No house, no family, no mailbox. Just a single card lying in the snow beside me. I drove home and packed every card I'd ever received into a box. I took them to the fireplace. As the flames took them, the house filled with heat and smoke. The fire alarm went off. I didn't stop it. I sat on the floor and watched. When it was over, the cards were gone. The dreams stopped. This year, no card came. For the first time in my life, Christmas felt quiet, peaceful, until this morning, when my daughter brought in the mail and asked, "Mommy, why did someone send us a Christmas card from a house that isn't there anymore?" And inside, written in a child's careful hand, were 3 words, "You promised us."
I grew up believing carolers were harmless, an outdated tradition, awkward smiles, off-key singing, something you tolerated for the sake of the season. That belief died the year they came to my door. It was Christmas Eve, just after 2 a.m. I was awake because I couldn't sleep, not from excitement, but from that restless feeling you get when the house feels too quiet. My wife and kids were asleep upstairs. Snow fell steadily outside, muting the world into something soft and unreal. Then I heard it. Singing. At first I thought it was the television, some late-night holiday commercial bleeding through the walls, but the sound was too close, too clear. Voices. Multiple. I muted the TV. The singing continued. It was coming from outside. I moved to the front window and pulled the curtain back just an inch. They stood at the end of my driveway. 5 of them. Men and women, bundled in old-fashioned winter coats, scarves wrapped tight around their necks. No hats, no visible breath despite the cold. They held candles. The flames didn't flicker. They were singing "O Come All Ye Faithful," slowly, carefully, as if following a rule I couldn't hear. I checked my phone. 2:17 a.m. Who the hell goes caroling at 2 in the morning? I muttered. I watched for movement, smiles, shifting feet.
Nothing. They stood perfectly still, except for their mouths. I should have closed the curtain. Instead, I kept watching. As the song ended, they didn't move. They didn't leave. They simply began again. Same song, same pace. That's when I noticed something wrong. They weren't looking at the house. They were looking at the door, at the exact spot where someone would stand if they opened it. A knock echoed through the house. Not loud, not aggressive, polite. 3 slow taps. My heart began to pound. Another knock. I stepped back, suddenly aware of how thin the door felt, how old the lock was. Upstairs, a floorboard creaked. "Dad," my son whispered from the stairs. "Go back to bed," I hissed. "But they're singing." The knock came again. This time, closer, heavier. I moved toward the door despite every instinct screaming at me not to. "Can I help you?" I called. The singing stopped. One of them stepped forward. He was tall, pale. His eyes reflected candlelight like glass. "We're here to finish," he said. "Finish what?" "Our song." "We're closed," I said. "It's late." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "It always is." They began the final verse. As they sang, something changed. The air thickened, pressed in on my ears. The house felt smaller, tighter, like it was holding its breath. I noticed then that the candles were dripping, but the wax didn't fall. It crawled upward, back toward the flame. My wife appeared at the top of the stairs, pale and shaking. "Why are they still here?" she whispered. "I don't know." The singing grew louder, closer, though no one moved. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from an unknown number. "Do not open the door before the song ends." My blood ran cold. Another message. "If you do, they won't leave." The carolers' voices rose unnaturally high, stretching syllables too long, harmonies bending wrong. I backed away from the door. The handle turned, just slightly. "Dad," my son whispered, crying now. "They're inside." "No," I said, "they're not." But I could hear footsteps, not on the porch, in the hallway. The singing reached its final line. The handle twisted hard. I lunged forward and grabbed it, forcing it shut with my whole weight. The song ended. Silence crashed down like a wave. Outside, the carolers stood motionless. Then, one by one, they turned around and walked into the snow. No footprints, no sound. By morning, the driveway was empty. No candles, no wax, no sign they'd ever been there. We didn't talk about it. We tried to forget. A year passed, then 2. On the 3rd Christmas Eve at 2:17 a.m., the singing returned. This time, it came from inside the house, from the hallway, outside my bedroom door. And I understood the truth too late. They don't come to every house, only the ones that answered.
I didn't plan to spend Christmas in a hotel that shouldn't exist. The storm made the decision for me. I was driving west through a stretch of highway I'd taken a dozen times before. Empty farmland, flat sky, nothing but radio static and snow swallowing the road. The weather report promised light flurries. Instead, the snow came down sideways, thick and blinding. By the time I saw the hotel sign, I could barely feel my hands. Vacancy, warm rooms, open all year. The building sat alone, lights glowing softly through falling snow. No nearby town, no gas station, just the hotel standing like it had been waiting. I pulled in without thinking. Inside, the lobby smelled like pine cleaner and old carpet. Christmas decorations covered every surface, tinsel, garlands, a massive tree in the corner decorated with glass ornaments yellowed with age. Behind the desk stood a woman in a red sweater. "Checking in?" she asked, smiling. "Yes," I said, "just for the night." Her smile twitched. "Of course." She slid a ledger across the desk instead of a computer screen. I hesitated. "Do you need my ID?" "No," she said, "we already know who you are." I laughed nervously and signed anyway. The name above mine caught my eye. December 24th, 1987. I frowned. "Is this an old book?" "We like to keep records," she said. She handed me a brass key. Room 12. "No checkout time," she added. "Breakfast is served whenever you're ready." The hallway was long, too long. The carpet muffled my steps completely. Doors lined both sides, each decorated with a small wreath. From behind them came sounds, laughter, clinking glasses, distant music, Christmas celebrations. I reached room 12 and opened the door. The room was spotless but outdated. Floral wallpaper, a boxy television, a Bible on the nightstand with a handwritten note inside. "Stay as long as you need." I tried calling my wife. No signal. I turned on the TV. Static. Then footage. A family opening presents around a tree identical to the one downstairs. The image flickered, warped, then cut to a snowy highway. The one I'd just driven. I shut it off. A knock came at the door. I opened it to find an elderly man holding 2 mugs of cocoa. "First time here?" he asked. "Yes." He smiled sadly. "It always is." We sat in the lobby later by the fireplace. Other guests gathered there too. A couple in wedding clothes, a teenage boy staring at his phone, a woman rocking an invisible baby. They spoke like old friends. "What brings you here?" I asked the man. "A delay," he said. "Flight was canceled. That was a while ago." "How long have you been here?" He looked at the fire. "I stopped counting after the 3rd Christmas." My chest tightened. "That's not possible." He met my eyes. "Neither is this place." That night, I dreamed of checking out. In the dream, I stepped outside and found the world frozen. Cars stopped mid-motion, snow suspended in the air. When I woke, the clock read December 24th. I packed my bag and went to the desk. "I need to leave," I said. The woman smiled. "Of course." She gestured to the door. I opened it. Beyond it was the lobby. The same tree, the same fire, the same guests. I turned back to her, panic rising. "That's not right!" She tilted her head. "Most guests leave eventually, just not forward." Days passed, or maybe weeks. The decorations never came down. The guests never changed. I saw new arrivals sometimes, confused, cold, relieved to find shelter. They always took room 12 when it became available. One night, I followed the elderly man down a service hallway. At the end was a door marked Exit. He turned to me. "If you open it, you can go." "Why haven't you?" I asked. "Because you don't choose where you go next." I opened the door. Cold air rushed in. I stepped through and found myself back at the front desk, holding a brass key. The woman smiled warmly. "Checking in?" I felt something break inside me. I stopped trying to leave after that. It's easier this way. The fire is warm. The snow never gets worse. Christmas never ends. Tonight, someone new arrived. They looked exhausted, relieved, just like I did. I watched them sign the ledger. December 25th, 2025. Room 12 will be available soon, and when it is, I'll finally be able to check out. Christmas Eve had always been special in our family. Not because of the gifts, not because of the tree. It was the rules. Simple ones, passed down through generations. No fighting, no drinking too much eggnog, no sneaking cookies before dinner. And above all, do not open presents after midnight. I never questioned it. As a child, it sounded silly, superstitious, but my grandmother's eyes when she said it, they weren't joking. She spoke with that tone you hear only from someone who has seen something real, something dangerous. Midnight is sacred, she would whisper. Cross that line and you invite more than wishes into your home. I laughed as a kid. I scoffed as a teenager. I ignored it entirely as a young adult, until the night I broke the rule. It started innocently. I came home early from work. My parents were asleep. The tree glowed softly in the living room, ornaments glinting in the lamplight. The presents waited beneath it, beautiful, wrapped with care. My siblings all passed out upstairs. I had finished all my errands. There was nothing to do. The clock on the mantel ticked toward midnight, 11:59 p.m. I glanced at the smallest present under the tree, tied with a thin ribbon, the one addressed to me in looping handwriting I didn't recognize. Curiosity got the better of me. I untied the ribbon. The box was empty. I frowned. Then, slowly, a slip of paper rose from the bottom. "I've been waiting for you." My heart thumped. I looked around the quiet room. Nothing. I laughed nervously. "Very funny," I muttered, assuming someone had left a note. I opened another present. Same thing. Empty box. A note. Always addressed to me. Always cryptic. Always knowing things. It was almost midnight when I realized something. The notes weren't random. They listed things I had lost. Small things, memories I'd buried. The first note read, "You forgot your mother's favorite vase. You took it and you left it." I froze. I hadn't thought about that vase in years. Another box, another note. "The dog you promised to feed before leaving for college, did you?" The clock struck midnight. Then I heard it, a faint tapping from inside the presents. One by one, boxes rattled as if something moved within. I backed away from the tree. The notes continued. "You laughed at your sister's tears. You didn't stop him." My stomach churned. I ran upstairs to wake my parents. They were gone. My siblings? Gone. The house changed. The tree had grown, taller, wider, or maybe it was just me. Everything seemed larger, older, more imposing. I returned to the living room. The boxes were open on their own, arranged in a circle around the tree. Candles I hadn't lit burned along the floor. The notes were still coming, one floating in the air, landing in front of me. "Your turn to lose." The lights flickered. The temperature dropped. Shadows stretched across the walls like fingers reaching for me. I understood then. Each note didn't just remember the past, it predicted the next loss. The first thing to disappear was my phone, then the clock. My reflection vanished from the mirror. Every door I tried was locked, every window barred from the inside. I screamed, but no sound came. Then I heard the whispers, low, faint, in the same voice as the notes. "You chose curiosity over caution. You chose desire over promise. Do you remember the rule?" I tried to flee, tried to undo what I had done, but the tree grew taller, filling the room. The presents swirled like a storm. I could feel them moving, shifting, watching. Every gift contained something waiting to claim me. The last note floated directly into my hands. "You opened me after midnight. Now you are mine, and I will keep what you love until someone else forgets the rule." I blacked out. When I awoke, it was morning, Christmas morning. Sunlight spilled through the windows. The tree was normal. Presents sat neatly underneath. My family was there, alive, smiling. I smiled too.
pretended nothing had happened, pretended I had never been terrified. But the smallest box was gone, the one I had first opened, and I knew, somewhere in the house, that box waited, patient, watching, collecting. Every Christmas Eve, the whispers return, the tapping returns, the notes float from empty boxes. And one day, if I forget the rule, I will open a present after midnight and lose everything all over again.